Oh man, thanks for joining us on the news tonight. The ruling All Progressives Congress has finally launched its campaign council and manifesto 4 weeks after the official start of the campaign season. Well, the party is calling its 80-page manifesto an action plan for a better Nigeria, which identifies problem areas such as security and the economy. In the foreword, the APC presidential candidate Bola Tinubu suggests the Nigerians do not want what he calls the broken, unimaginative, failed promises repackaged and fed to them again. Well, President Muhammad Buhari, who inaugurated the Presidential Campaign Council and unveiled the manifesto, said Nigeria is safer in the hands of the APC. President Buhari is the chairman of the Campaign Council, while the party chairman, Abdullahi Adamu, is the deputy chairman of the council. Vice presidential candidate Kashim Shettima will serve as a vice chairman as well, and Plateau State Governor Simon Lalong will be the director general of the campaign council.
Despite the unfavorable circumstances of global economic downturns, the coronavirus pandemic that practically grounded the world for over a year and upset many nations' growth, very low international oil prices resulting in low revenue, and our local challenges of insecurity and inherited systematic corruption, we have managed to make our country stable and lay a solid foundation for progressive growth.
We are sure that we can make realizable the cross-Saharan pipeline to bring our gas to Europe and compete with Russia, compete better, generate the necessary revenue. I stand before you proudly, noting that those who are afraid of the budget, they were talk of borrowing and it's borrowing.
Our presidential candidate, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and his teammate, in conjunction with the party, has developed a detailed manifesto that clearly spells out his roadmap for taking Nigeria to greater heights and impacting the lives of the people. Therefore, while others spend their valuable time addressing personalities and other frivolities during the campaigns, we shall, with the mission and vision of our candidate and our great party, encapsulate in a manifesto towards delivering the dividends of democracy to Nigerians.
Governor Simon Lalong of Plateau State, and of course he is the Director General of the APC Presidential Campaign Council. Well, for more on the ruling party's manifesto and campaign council, we're now being joined by Felix, who is the Deputy National Youth Coordinator of the APC Presidential Campaign Council. Nicholas, thank you so much for joining us tonight on the program. And of course, just looking at this massive document, all 80 pages, it says it's called Renewed Hope 2023. And your presidential candidate says it's not just a manifesto, it is an action plan. So walk us through what makes this particular action plan, as your party is calling it, different from what we've heard in the past, and the key areas that you plan to address with it.
First of all, thank you for having me. Good to be here. And I want to say I'm very excited about this manifesto. And it was quite exciting to hear our presidential candidate deliver this speech. I must tell you, I was so proud hearing him speak. Now, what we must look at is not just the manifesto. We must look at the brain behind it. We must look at the presidential candidate who is going to be the engine room, the one pioneering and ensuring that this manifesto see the light of day. And for me, it's quite exciting to see that the first we have here is building Nigeria for the youth, especially for the youth, to create jobs. And for me, that's very key because a lot of our young ones are unemployed. And hearing our presidential candidate aligning this and making it number one that is going to build in Nigeria for you to have jobs with decent pay. It's quite exciting to see. Not just number one, you go to number 5, it talks about the young people also and the women, ensuring that they get the desired resources, to be able to, in the digital, economic, entertainment, cultural, and the rest. So it's quite exciting. The man behind this is going to ensure that this manifesto is, live from the paper right down to manifesting it in our lives as Nigerians.
Okay, interesting. We've seen manifestos in the past. Even the APC manifesto that brought in the Buhari administration, they talk about 35% affirmation for women. But we haven't seen that in the life of the administration so far, and it is 7 years plus into this administration. So how do we ensure, how do you tell Nigerians that, this is an action plan for them? How does this translate to actions? And I want to ask, did your candidate come up with this document, or was it developed for him, or was it a committee?
Okay.
Who's the brain behind this document?
Like I said, the difference between this manifesto or whatever with every other manifesto you may have seen is the person behind it.
So he developed this document?
I'll speak from my experience. I remember in one of my visits with him, we were supposed to have a long meeting. He told me he needed more time, to go out. He's writing his manifesto. We actually chatted. This is not somebody told me. He said, I need to go and take a few minutes break. I need to continue writing this manifesto. And he said to me, I'm going to have you read it before the thing is out. So from that encounter, I actually said, wow, you mean you're writing this yourself? I thought, some other persons may be the one putting it. He actually told me I need to continue writing it. And when I finish, I'm going to have you read it. So I believe he wrote this by himself.
Our question was a double-barreled one. How do we ensure that some of these promises, especially the 35% affirmative action being promised again, will come to fruition this time around if your party is re-elected?
Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, with what I've known about him in these few months, is a man of his word. It's an action man. And when you look at what was going on during the presidential council, putting things together, a lot of people thought it was going to be chaotic, that trouble was going to burst out, and what is going on. People were just talking. At the end of the day, we came out so peaceful. This event was amazing. There was no issue. And I said to myself, how is this man able to put all this together? From what people would think is one issue coming up, before you know it, there's no issue. It's the same man we are talking about. I believe, and I'm excited about this manifesto, that 6 months after being sworn in, we'll start seeing this manifest.
I like the fact that you say that he was actually the brain behind this manifesto, and I want to take you back to a part of it, especially as it concerns a major challenge every Nigerian is facing today, which is security. As beautiful as the write-up is, there was no mention of state policing, and just over the weekend while he was in Kaduna State, he did mention in that Arewa consultative meeting that state policing is a top priority in his administration if he is elected. So which should we pick now, this manifesto over what he had promised in Kaduna, or what exactly is going on with that?
Well, of course, as you can see, I know it's called 80 pages, but it's not possible to write every detailed thing on paper.
Right.
Now, these are just the bullet points of this. When it comes to state policing, you must understand it's quite detailed. It's something that has not been done before. I'm sure more thought needs to be put in it. For my own personally, I think when it comes to state policing, we're not just going to jump into just having state police. A lot has to be put into it, because when you approve state police and the wrong governor handles it, we're going to be in a mess compared to what we currently are. So I think as we go, we're going to see more of that as regarding state police. But if you look at some of he talked about anti-terrorist battalion, I quite was excited about that he's putting more effort into, more attention is going to be put into, fighting terrorism as we go. So I think as we go, we're going to be saying about more of state policing.
Indeed. Well, we'll be looking at that. Again, it's an 80-page document. Something interesting I came across when it came to oil and gas. The document says oil is not the answer to our economic problem, but it remains relevant for our economic survival. And then I read further and went to the target the goals for the administration. You're talking about increasing crude oil production to 2.6 million barrels per day by 2027, and then 4 million barrels per day by 2030. How realistic is this? Let me remind you that currently we are hovering around 972,000 barrels per day. Even the president mentioned how significant that challenge is, to not be able to meet OPEC quota, to not be able to meet revenue demands, which we rely on from the proceeds from the oil. So when you give these targets, how realistic are those? I
mean, it's quite realistic, because if you look at the recently, over 58 illegal assets were discovered. And then one would wonder how much of those 58 illegal means. That should be in the hundreds of barrels that are being, So if they are already targeting this illegal means, I'm sure they have a clear target of how they're going to get into that. It's quite obvious that oils are being stolen all these years. So if they're able to stop 58, I don't know the quantity of oil being stolen every day, but that's a huge number. It doesn't matter if it's just a 1,000 barrels. When you add them up, I'm sure they'll be able to get to that number.
Right, and of course, even the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources did say that we lose almost $1 billion a month, speaking about dollars, to oil theft. But I want us to stay with the economy, really. And something that also stood out for me was where he did mention the fact that he was going to optimize foreign exchange and strengthen the naira, reduce foreign loans, phase out fuel subsidy. Quite interesting about phasing out fuel subsidy, and he's talking about redirecting the funds being spent on fuel subsidy. And Nigerians are wondering what sectors will be prioritized in terms of that money being spent on subsidy right now that will get it.
What we're talking about, I'm sure they're going to be working on the refineries. That's certain, because you can remove oil subsidies when Nigerians will still getting our crude refined products from abroad. So I'm sure as we go, this manifesto just came out today, just a few hours ago. We're going to be looking more into this manifesto, and as time goes on, especially when he's sworn in, Shiwaju is going to have men with brain who are going to surround be part of his administration, who are going to make sure this manifesto see the light of day. I can assure you, this is not just going to be a manifesto on paper. We're going to see it in the life of Nigerians.
Very quickly, if you can answer this, how about power? There are no specifics when it came to power. He said, the way to a brighter Nigeria. He talked about the current capacity, generation, and distribution of this administration. But then when it came to the hope of being the next administration, it was silent on target. Is it that you don't want Nigerians to hold you to the targets you make in this manifesto?
Again, like I said, if you look at the 10 bullet points, and everything can be spelled out. The power sector alone, there's so much details into it. Number 8 here, it talks about generating, transmitting, and distributing sufficient affordable electricity. So you can put everything on paper. This is just a bullet point letting you know the areas. Every area in Nigeria needs attention, from the infrastructure. I mean, every area needs attention. I don't think it's possible for any administration to get everything done in just 4 years. But I can assure you, Shiwaju is going to focus on the areas he knows best Nigeria needs and get the job done. Number 8 is part of generating and transmitting sufficient electricity. As time goes on, we'll see how far we'll go with that.
Right, and of course, Nigerians are looking forward to the roadmap to achieving all that is being promised, not just from your party, but from all the presidential candidates. In the meantime, we'd have to say thank you so much for joining us tonight on the program. Nicholas Felix, who is the Deputy National Youth Coordinator of the APC Presidential Campaign Council. Thank you again for your analysis tonight.